This is Michael Popak. It's time for Legal AF After Dark. We're going to talk all about the April 15th start of a trial against Donald Trump, the first criminal trial against Donald Trump. Judge Merchan held one of the last hearings he's going to hold about the case before that jury gets picked. And he was none too pleased with Donald Trump's lawyers as he addressed their attempt to delay the case again as the judge set a firm trial date. We're picking a jury on the 15th of April. But we give you more detail than that. We get behind the headlines one place on Legal AF. Take a listen.
They go back to the last Legal AF. We were talking about that big hearing, which was technically scheduled for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. But as you and I predicted, Justice Merchan made it very quick and had the parties come in. Merchan basically read out loud the motion that was filed by Trump and Trump's lawyers and said, "You've made very serious accusations here against the district attorney's office, against this court. Let me know what you are trying to argue here." And immediately, Trump's lawyers tried to pivot to another issue and said, "Well, actually, we just requested additional documents from the Department of Justice about Stormy Daniels. And you see that those documents are now going to take additional time." And Justice Merchan controlled his courtroom. "We're not here for that. Why didn't you raise that in your prior motion?" If that was your intent, if that's what you were going to do there. And it seems to me that the record reflects, this is what Justice Merchan said, that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office did everything that they were supposed to do. And then it got scathing where Justice Merchan was looking at Trump's lawyers and saying, basically, "You've made very serious accusations, not just against the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, accusing them of like colluding with the Department of Justice to try to harm Donald Trump, when the record reflects actually the exact opposite by your own terms." Referring to Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, "You're making accusations that this court is involved somehow in a conspiracy with the Department of Justice and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Those are very serious accusations. You don't cite any cases. You don't provide a scintilla of evidence, and that's very inappropriate and will not be tolerated in my courtroom. Do you understand?" And Trump's lawyers were very frazzled. Trump was described there also as kind of being pissed that his lawyers really weren't able to handle kind of Justice Merchan's, real kind of scathing surgical cross-exam. You had Todd Blanche as the one who was really out there kind of taking, the brunt of it. Susan Neckles, Donald Trump's other lawyer, who really practices in that courtroom and is known to have, a pretty decent to good reputation there. She doesn't usually involve herself in these kind of PR stunts. Blanche was willing to take that on, and it did not go well for them. So let me pass it off to you, Michael Popak, with that kind of setup right there.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly set up. Susan Neckles, and I did a hot take on this recently. I will assure you, and we're going to talk about the gag order as well, that in her entire career, she's never had to defend a criminal client of hers who has attacked the family members of judges before. And I would like to see if Judge Merchan even holds a hearing about whether the gag order is going to be expanded or not. We'll get there in a minute. I like him to pose that question directly to Susan Neckles and to Todd Blanche and say, "Ms. Neckles, you've got a good reputation here in the court. You've appeared in front of me before. You tried a case involving the Trump organization 2 years ago. Name for me one client that you think it was appropriate and that you've defended who's attacked the family members of a judge. I'm waiting." And that's not going to take that long. She's never done it in her entire career, and nor would she ever thought to have done it before she got into the world and the ambit of Donald Trump. A dangerous place to be as a lawyer who with a bar license that we're going to continue to talk about here as we talk about Jeff Clark later. The hearing went very, how do I put this? It was very turbulent for Mr. Blanche. We're going to talk about Mr. Blanche as well and his recent filing about the gag order. You cannot make accusations without any evidence, without any supporting affidavits, without any proof that a judge is committing judicial misconduct and a prosecutor is committing prosecutorial misconduct in the handling of documents, if you don't have the goods, all that's going to do is get you in the crosshairs and in the line of fire, rightly so, by the judge. And the judge used the opportunity. When you and I first reported on it, we're like, oh, what should have been the trial day, March 25th, is going to be this hearing day about some of these arguments. And I think Donald Trump and his lawyers, because Trump was there, came in there thinking, sort of full of themselves. Oh, we got the hearing we wanted, and the trial is delayed 30 days. And, we'll just have this civil debate about documents, and maybe we can get a more extension of time, which is, of course, their ultimate goal. And that is not what was on the agenda for the judge. And for those courtroom observers that we observe, because we have to report it that way because it's not televised and we don't have audio, it came away with that Blanche was caught flat-footed and that he was not prepared to take on the fire of the judge. Should have been, wasn't. Thought he could get away with, making these salacious or other accusations about these two parts of the criminal justice system, and get some benefit out of it. And the judge was like, "You're not doing that. All you've identified, Mr. Blanche, is kind of run-of-the-mill discovery and documents issues in a case. Happens all the time. It doesn't mean it's the product of misconduct by anybody." And I don't like it, and I don't like to hear it here. In fact, the judge reinforced a rule that he has, that future motions that are going to be filed, before they're even filed, are going to have to go through him to decide at the outset whether they have any merit or not, or they're in good faith. And this is another example of Judge Merchan having to warn and chastise Donald Trump's lawyers about their potential lack of good faith as being advocates in the courtroom. Zealous advocates, yes. Make robust arguments, yes, but you can't cross the line and start attacking. And so the judge did not take the bait, is not going to extend the trial and set the trial date for the 15th of April. In April, that's going to be very busy for Donald Trump, because he's going to be, on one hand, picking a jury in the courtroom. Unless he gets excused, will have to attend every day of that trial. And getting excused is not that easy, but he could try. But he's going to have to be there for the criminal trial on the 15th of April. And on the 25th of April, another set of lawyers for Donald Trump, his appellate lawyers, are going to be arguing oral argument, which we will be able to hear and comment on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF, before the United States Supreme Court, on whether he has immunity or not, whether the D.C. Court of Appeals got it right that he does not have immunity from criminal prosecution. On the federal side, a very busy April. That trial that we're talking about in the Stormy Daniels hush money business record fraud cover-up matter. It's a mouthful, but that's what the case is about. That's the one, of course, that's going to have Michael Cohen testify, Alan Weisselberg, the disgraced, soon-to-be twice felon of a chief financial officer for Donald Trump, David Pecker, who was the National Enquirer, head of the National Enquirer and editor-in-chief of that, and a bunch of other people, all against Donald Trump. That's going to start. It's going to last 6 to 7 to 8 weeks, according to all the parties that are concerned. And Donald Trump has had now to inform, we're not going to talk much about Mar-a-Lago today, but he did have to inform Judge Merchan, Judge Cannon down in Mar-a-Lago, that he's starting a trial with Judge Merchan on the 15th of April. She should take that into consideration as to when she's going to set her trial, if ever, before the election. Well, that's an example of what we do every week, twice a week on the MeidasTouch Network, on a show we call Legal AF. It is sort of like a TED Talk and a law school class have a baby at the intersection of law and politics. Doesn't that sound grand? And if you like that kind of hard-hitting analysis at the intersection of law and politics by lawyers who know what they're talking about, you've come to the right place. We call it Legal AF. We have a podcast. It's on YouTube, on MeidasTouch Network, Wednesdays, Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then you can pick it up on audio podcast platforms of your choice, whatever you like. And then on hot takes like this one, we catch you up with the latest developments at the intersection of law and politics. So If you know all about Legal AF, you're already part of our audience. You're already part of the more than 500,000 people every show that watch and listen to us. We thank you for being with us and part of our audience. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that was Legal AF. And we'd invite you to join us on our regular podcast every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you know everything about us and you want to get some other people to join or know about Legal AF and help us with a little promo, take that clip you just saw, send it off to friends and family and people in your life and say, hey, just like that. Hey, you know that show I love, Legal AF on the MeidasTouch Network? Here's an example of it, and maybe they'll join our audience too. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popak reporting.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstalllenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Meidas Mighty. Let's use our power well.